You're still watching TVC Breakfast. Now, fresh questions are emerging from the Electoral Act amendment following recent moves at the National Assembly to harmonize continuous provisions, including electoral transmission of results. While lawmakers insist the process is ongoing, civil society groups and legal experts are calling for clearer safeguards ahead of the 2027 elections, warning that unresolved gray areas could impact transparency and public trust. Joining us via Zoom all the way in USA is convener Social Rehabilitation, Grace and Support Initiative, Dr. Oludare Marindoti. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good, Rhea. How are you?
I'm perfect. We're about to start this very important conversation. I'm just going to give you, a quick rundown of what has been happening. I'm sure you've been seeing on social media. Yesterday, we saw the protest where protesters gathered at the National Assembly, calling Senate President Akpabio a whole lot of names. Now, these people are demanding that we get to see the result of elections as they hot. I mean, right on time. And now there have been conversations. Even the Senate President had said that, we have 9 states that do not have, accurate or good network or technology to support this. Well, other people will argue that if we have identified what the problem is, why don't we create a solution to it? At the end of the day, these people are just saying that they want a free and fair election. I know that the Senate is also sitting today as well to come up with an initiative to make sure that everybody is happy. But like I said earlier on, the most important thing is that this 2027 election comes out very credible. But I just want to get your take on it. What do you think about this live transmission of electoral results? Is this something you see that can happen if we put our mind on it?
Well, there are so many things to unpack, but before we even start to get into the weeds of it, I believe we will need to get to the roots of why there's this agitation about the electronic transmission of results. I will start by preaching that Isaiah 4:6 said, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." And even Surah Al-Nasrah says that many are led astray by their desires without knowledge. So even the Bible tells us that we need to understand what the cause of the problem is. The reason why we are talking about this is because in 2023, the people who lost the election blamed it on IREV. So now that they have falsely identified, or in their own opinion, completely identified the reason why they lost that election, because they believed President Tinubu rigged with IREV. Now that they have identified that, they are trying to correct it right now. That is why, even though our election is imperfect and there are very salient things that we need to reform and we need to think about and spend energy trying to think around and solve, we are focusing on this IREV. The reason why the country is not completely connected is because the connection is being managed by businessmen who want to make money. So if people in that place, maybe it's an IDP camp or whatever, if they are not able to be buying network, the company is not going to invest the mast and be putting diesel in the generator that will power the mast so that they can be having free access to internet. It is just business. Even in Texas, if I drive from Houston to Amarillo, an 8-hour drive, there's about 1 to 2 hours of that road whereby there's completely no network. I'm just on my own. So these things are just infrastructural, problems that we have. But technology that is supposed to be a tool in the service of democracy, we cannot make it a master to enslave democracy. Because what they are trying to do by saying nobody has a problem with electronic transmission where it can be done. I mean, if you recall the team APC war room that was headed by the former minister and former governor Fashola knew the results. They were having the direct transfer. That is also electronic transmission. Transmission is just sending, just the same way you are transmitting right now from your studio. So this transmission is not in any way, shape, or form a part of the conduct of election. Election is accreditation, voting, counting, coalition, and then you declare the results. And the declaration of results is going to happen at different levels depending on the election that you are conducting. So trying to put all egg into the electronic transmission of results and making it mandatory, well, if we do that, what will now happen? You can think about the situation whereby, like in those places where they don't have election, according to one of the civil society people that I read yesterday, he said based on INEX test, it was about 7% of the country or 70% of the population that will not be covered. So what will happen in that place? That means if they cannot electronically transmit their election, then they have been disenfranchised. And the civil society person that I saw seemed to be okay with it, even though if you had added 7% to Atiku's vote in 2023, Tinubu will not be president today. So these things, by creating a bottleneck in that place, you have created so many things. That is the first case, right? A situation of just nature whereby there is no internet coverage. So let's think about a situation where somebody is trying to be mischievous. We all know that the word of it sometimes don't vote for APC. So that means that if the APC that they are scared of, the Machiavellian APC and Tinubu that they are trying to stop, if he wants to win the election in Lagos, he can just go and put a jamming device, because there are so many jamming devices that you can use to take out the network in an area. And then you have already been given an avenue to disenfranchise people of Amuwo Odofin who are going to vote for the opposition. Because why? They are not going to be able to transmit electronically their results. And because they've not been able to transmit electronically their results by design, their vote is not going to count, even though transmission is not a part of the conduct of election. Now, let's even now go to something that is even more highfalutin. What if the BVAS is cloned, and this is me just being crafty, is cloned, and then since they are going to, you don't trust the INEC, that means the INEC will be able to take the cloned one and use that to upload the original result to a server of no return, whereas the original BVAS is being used to upload the fake results, which is what is going to be seen. So even though the INEC, the people conducting the election are honest people, they took the right results there, they will tell them, no, your result is wrong. We are going to go with IRS, because that is what they are wanting this law to say, which is, in my own opinion, really just does not make any sense. We cannot compel as a condition for the validity of an election a process whereby you cannot control. When you go to the polling units, what they tell you to do? They don't tell you to protect your coalition. They tell you to protect your ballot. So I would have been thinking that they would be thinking of ways to protect the ballot, to ensure that only the accredited ballots are counted, to ensure that the chain of custody is maintained, because so that if anybody should rig, you can go back just the same way the APC or ACN at the time went back and retrieved the mandate of Oshiomhole, Mimipo, Aregbesola and co, so that they'll be able to go back and seek that redress within 6 months by the new Electoral Act, and they will, so that the people who are trying to be corrupt, they will not be able to benefit from it. That is what they should be focusing on. They should be, in my own opinion, they should be focusing on internal democracy, as opposed to trying to create a bottleneck that will then create an avenue for so many mischief. And everybody seems to be ready to die on the altar of this electronic transfer, as if it is the panacea to all our electoral problems, not being able to envisage the new problems that this is going to cause, because they have identified the problems of 2023 that they are now trying to cure.
But quick one, Mr. Marindoti, I just want to highlight this, because from everything you're saying, there's a lot I would, come to you, but that'll be later on. But are you saying that technology is going to fail us? Because from the way you're sounding, it looks like, you are not with this technology at all. So I just want you to quickly touch that for me. Are you saying that technology would not do us well?
No, I'm not saying technology will not do us well. I'm saying compelling the validity of the result on technology is going to create a lot of bottlenecks that we cannot anticipate right now. Yoruba people will say, if you don't know a medicine that is toxic, you will call it a common vegetable, and that will make you eat it. There are so many problems. Technology can be easily manipulated. When the United States attacked Venezuela, Trump said it himself that they wanted even military hardware. They were able to jam it, that they wanted to shoot the guns were not going up. So you cannot tell me that people cannot jam network or use because you have already created a bottleneck whereby they can just go and attack easily. So I believe this compelling, not that they shouldn't do it, but compelling electronic transmission is going to make rigging even easier. All the media houses can band together and have a representative in all the 176,000 plus polling units and get the media result that way, but that will still not be the official one. The official one will still be the one written on the ballot box, written on those form E, whatever their names are, that is going to be transmitted up on the way to what's it called, Abuja. So I'm not saying technology is not good. It is good, but you cannot compel it, because you are going to create new problems that will create a lot of destabilization. Imagine if the election in Amuwo Odofin is jammed. Now everybody will be agitating. That's and right. They won't even know where the problem is. And you don't have to be outside to jam it. You can just be in your room.
Yeah, Dr. Marindoti, I just want to take it on from the figure you gave us in percentage terms, in terms of, you quoted, I think is INEC, that 7% of the country will not have, does not have connectivity. And in that situation, if you assume our population is 235,000, we are talking about over 16 million Nigerians that will be disenfranchised. if this real-time transmission of results is adopted. That is my first observation, leading to this question, that there are about 5 or 6 countries noted to have adopted or tried to use real lifetime electronic transmission. Of interest to me is the issue of El Salvador. In 2019, El Salvador actually used real lifetime transmission. Again, the matter ended up in court. It's when the Supreme Court now had to use a manual compilation to resolve that problem. And that's one of the best available results in terms of the outcome of real lifetime transmission. If you look at the issue of Bangladeshi, Pakistan, again, they tried it over poor IT technology that you refer to. They had to quickly abandon it and go to manual compilation. If you look at the case of Brazil, before Brazil, who today is practicing real lifetime transmission, Brazil started in 1985, the process of computerizing the whole system. And you will notice that in 2009, Brazil actually organized hacking competition, within their own country to ensure that their systems will be so robust, nobody will be able to, violate it. But eventually what happened? We saw the dispute following Bolsonaro, failure to secure a second term, leading to President Lula coming in, and then the controversy surrounding it involving the Americans. So my question is this: I'm not sure whether you know of any other country globally, practicing, real lifetime transmission of results that has led to increased trust in the electoral system.
No. I mean, it is essentially trying to address a problem that exists in the wrong way. When you want to electorally transmit results, you cannot say in a logical way that takes precedence over the real source. The basic unit of a society is the family. The basic unit of a living organism is the self. The basic unit of election is the ballot paper. So you are now trying to tell me that ballot paper is not as important as whatever is electronically transferred. That does not create any form of confidence, or that's why I had to go to the genesis of this, that they are trying to cure a disease that does not occur. There is no place in the world, even in the United States, where results are electronically transmitted. Most of the time when you are watching CNN or whatever, and they declare that this person is projected to win, because they don't complete the election until the next year. That is why the January 6th attack occurred, because that was the day that the election was going to be actually completed, whereby Biden was going to be made the president. Because all these things, they do a lot of the validation and all. So Nigeria's process is even quite fast compared to a lot of other countries, including the United States. California, sometimes 2 weeks, they are still conducting elections, still counting votes. But they would have been able to project, because they have more data and they understand the statistics and all. So the fact that they are trying, and that's why I'm surprised that even NLC is trying to go on a national strike and, cripple the economy because they want electronic transfer of results. That is because it is as a result of, and I'm trying to be as cordial as I can be, but it's just as a result of lazy-mindedness. Because the real problem that occurs during the coalition, whereby people change votes, can be remedied in other ways, in such a way that, just like it occurred after former President Obasanjo during 2007 election, whereby you can go to court and you'll be able to have evidence. And in my own opinion, if I'm to make a suggestion, I would say, after accrediting somebody, especially with the facial recognition, I don't even think we need PVC anymore, since we have facial recognition with the beavers. After accrediting a person, you can also have a barcode on the ballot box, whereby you scan it and you activate it. So even though that barcode will not be associated with that person, so you don't know who you voted for, but you will be able to know the legal ballots in the polling units, and nobody will be able to stop the ballot, the boxes, so that if a wrong result is being declared from anywhere, you can go back and manually count, and you'll be able to know that these were the ballots that were accredited during the course of the electioneering and accreditation process. And then that will make it almost foolproof. Nothing can make anything foolproof completely, but that would make it very difficult, because you will be able to verify. And then in such a situation whereby people get disenfranchised with violence. I feel like those are things that they are supposed to be able to attack. Like if somebody is trying to disenfranchise people with violence, you should not let them win. You should be able to come back and reconduct that election and add that vote, because every Nigerian vote should count. But these civil society organizations, because they have identified the Machiavellian Tinubu out of their Tinubu derangement syndrome, like Nigerian version of Trump's TDS, they want to cure the problem by just compelling electronic transfer of results.
Yeah,
it
Doctor
does not hold waters.
You are making very important submission. Look at this situation, and I don't know whether you have a solution to it. At the last election, INEC had 4 servers. They wanted to do live, transmission of results, and then, according to INEC, their servers got compromised in the process, and then decided to abandon it. If the Senate or the National Assembly, eventually enacted law that compels INEC, to strictly use real lifetime transmission of electoral results from the polling units, what would happen in the event of a compromise of the system or a failure of IT? What options would we have if there are no manual compilation? What else can be done?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If the electoral law should compel it, also that would make it that would make it a certainty that server is going to go down. There's a reason why on your phone you have to update your apps every day. It's because things get compromised. Even the best of the country of the technical minds, they know not to talk of in the age of AI, whereby you can multiply your attempt at compromising a server, or just even overload it so that it does not even have the capacity to take the new So if they have that, if that such a thing would happen, then they will still have to resort to the primary source of the election, which is the ballot paper, which is the paper that you put your thumbprint on. That is always the source. I think saner and more logical mind should prevail here. Nobody is against electronic transmission. The parties ADC can also have their own sort of war room, just the same way APC had it in 2023, and be posting their results live. Posting their results live on Instagram and everything. So far, it is honest, because they put a lot of fake results in 2023, and the APC were just laughing at them, right? But you cannot compel INEC to have to electronically transmit. And if they don't, you are not, none of the people that are advocating for mandatory electronic transmission has ever given a suggestion as to how they will remedy a situation like you described, whereby the system is compromised. They have not given it. They have not said, okay, we'll go to another region to go and upload it. They have not given it. They just want to cure the lazy problem that they discovered in 2023. It was not because the opposition's votes was split. It was because Tinubu rigged with IREF. And now, if they can solve the IREF, boom, booyaka, everything, Eureka, everything is solved. It is not that easy.
So, Dr. Marindoti, you've actually made very beautiful submissions. And if you look at it, it's all about Nigerians demanding accountability, transparency, etc. There are 2 questions I want to ask you. I'll see if I can, lump them up, together. Because if you look at 2007, which you referenced, the botched election that was conducted, at the time, even the 2011 election and 2015 election, one of these elections, even when Umar Musa Yar'Adua said that the election that brought him into power, was flawed. And we saw how elections were conducted then, which led to the introduction of beavers that we eventually used in the 2023 elections, and all the noise, the brouhaha that came after it. I'm wondering what is at the back of the minds of those advocating real-time election transmission, election transmission of results, and the transmission of election results, rather, I should say. Do you feel that they are intentionally trying to create a legal landmine or a banana peel for INEC and some other parties, or let's say maybe the incumbent, because everyone is against the incumbent, the ADC, the Labour Party, they all want to snatch the power. Do you feel that they actually know what they are doing, and the intention is to push for this legal landmine so that whatever comes out of 2027 elections, they know that, yes, even if they don't win, they can scuttle the process with this provision?
Thank you very much. A realistic Marindoti will agree with you. But I try to be idealistic and think the good of everybody. And I want to assume and believe that these people have good intentions. However, Contravene was the one that said the road to hell is paved with good intention. That is to say, if you want to solve a problem, you must be able to be sure that the solution that you are trying to propose will solve that problem. So they are not going to be able to, they are trying to trade a line mine definitely so that they can dispute the election. I mean, we saw what Rubebe did in 2015, what Dino Melayon did in 2023. And, we saw how they went all the way to the, what's it called? So they want to just make it easier for them to be able to challenge, not necessarily to be able to say, I won the election, but to be able to say that nobody won this election, which is, to me, not a patriotic thing, because everybody should want the clean conduct of an election to be able to ascertain this chain of custody and all of these things. There are so many people that can, meddle in election. And I want to also talk about social media meddling in election, because I participated in 2023 election, like and I supported President Tinubu. And during that period, if I made a pro Tinubu video, and I was paying with my own money to all these social media companies, if I gave it to Instablog will post, but Tunde will not post. And I was surprised. So I kept on doing it all through the election that led to the presidential election. And Tunde never posted anything. Instablog posted with guidelines, right? Now, I thought maybe that was just for President Tinubu. So when Governor Sanwo-Olu was contesting after President Tinubu having lost Lagos, Tunde was posting his post, and I felt like, okay. So when DRV did the I don't think Yoruba mistake, and I saw it and I recorded it and decided to use it, I sent it to both Tunde Ednut and Instablog, and Tunde decided not to post it. Now, TVC might be pro APC, but you, by NBC rule, cannot reject the political material of any other political party. So how come these big platforms that have more viewerships are able to hide under the corner, and then they are influencing the election? If you look at what Elon Musk did in 2024 for President Trump, if you calculate the number of amplification that he gave to Republican talking points in dollars, it would be in the trillions of dollars if they had to pay for it in advance. So these people, foreign companies, foreign nationals, can influence election just by creating bots that is posting things and controlling people's mind. So we need to regulate social media, not by regulating what people say. People have freedom of speech and can post and see whatever. But we have to make sure the algorithm is transparent and nobody is manipulating it. And this is something that is going to come up in 2027. That is a part of election integrity that we need to look up to. In my own opinion, it helped us in 2023 because the social media gave Peter Obi the elevation that allowed him to take enough votes from Atiku that enabled President Tinubu to win.
Right, but Dr. Marindoti, before you come in, very quickly, I think it's just safe to put the record straight. You use the word might, actually, but then it's very important to mention that TVC actually is pro-democracy and pro the right thing to be done when it comes to say it is not affiliated to any political party. So I just thought we need to put that out there. Ria.
All right. So quickly, you've said something that's really important, and I just want to hammer on that. I feel like we are forgetting the most important part, and we're focusing on something else. You spoke about the Electoral Offences Commission, which we heard that they were going to bring up something like that to try people that would just want to disrupt the election, because oftentimes we hear that during elections there's insecurity, ballot snatching and all of that. But it seems like we shifted the conversation from something very important to now something that it seems like we will not be able to achieve.
You're very right. The most important problem in election in Nigeria, the most important rigging in election in Nigeria occurs before the voting, and that is vote buying. My father contested an election in 2015. Right in front of him, in his polling unit, a 19-year-old girl sold her vote for La Casera and Gala. I believe I've said this story before. So that is the most important thing that people need to look out for, and also internal democracy in the parties. Not a situation whereby Baba Sokpe can turn somebody to whereby we can have direct primaries. All card-carrying members of all political parties should come out and vote. I believe this will even behoove Peter Obi more, because if they are going to have direct primary in ADC, I can almost guarantee that it's going to win. These are the things that smart people are supposed to be talking about in terms of the electoral, but they are looking for the very minutiae, insignificant, trifling issue like electronic transmission, something that APC did on its own in 2023. They are trying to compel it for INEC to INEC to do. And if you look at these people, the political if they come from is nothing far from that of Athens and what he did in 1990. What's it called?
Yeah.
In 1993. They are the same people that are calling for President Trump to come and invade Nigeria.
But quickly, because of our time, we see the protests going and all of that. We know that the Senate is meeting as well. What do you think is going to be the outcome? Or what would you, if you were to give them things to do, what do you think is going to be the outcome of that sitting? Because the protest is still going on. We all saw what happened, yesterday. We even saw that Peter Obi had joined the protest, at some point. But what is going to be the way forward? Because at the end of the day, why all of this is happening is because we want a fair and credible election. So what do you think will be the best way for Nigeria come 2027?
I really do sympathize with the people protesting right now, because majority of them were sold a zobo and they bought it and they drank it. They were sold a lie and they ate it, they believe it. As for the Senate, the tail cannot be wagging the dog. The Senate is supposed to be the most deliberative body in Nigeria. So they should apply their higher level of thinking and make the judgments as to the problems that they are what's it called? Should they mandate this electronic transmission, the problem that it can cause, and not create a bottleneck or a weak link for the election in Nigeria that will now even make the credibility of the election worse and cause a lot of agitation post-election that might even compromise the democracy. I believe the Senate should not let the tail wag dog. If the people are not in support of what they passed, they should come out en masse next year and vote them out. But I believe it is patriotic for them to stand on the side of common sense. You cannot create a weak link for the Nigerian election or Nigerian democracy.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Marindoti. Your insights are always fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us on the show all the way from USA. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, still ahead on TVC Breakfast, we'll review concerns of Nigerians following recent development around the Electoral Act amendment. We'll be right back for this conversation just after the break. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.